A grand jury in the U.S. state of Georgia has issued 10 indictments in its investigation into Donald Trump's attempts to overturn the 2020 presidential elections. Those charged in the case in Georgia have not yet been named. The former president has been criminally indicted 3 times so far this year. Well, Al Jazeera's John Hendren joins us live now from Atlanta. John, so the Georgia grand jury has issued these 10 indictments. What more can you tell us about the charges, John?
Well, for the 4th time, Donald Trump has been convicted of crimes against the country that he was governing. These charges include racketeering, one of several charges against Donald Trump, and that is listed as a serious felony. All the rest are listed as felony. What that means is that this is a charge that carries a sentence of up to 20 years in prison. And here in Georgia, there's a minimum sentence of 5 years in prison. So it's a very serious charge for a man who's trying to be elected president one time again. There were also as many as 18 other people who have faced indictment on this same list of documents, and they include the former White House chief of staff, Mark Meadows. They include Rudolph Giuliani, the president's former personal attorney, who had been leading the campaign to suggest that Trump had won that election, something that never was proven, and that is the basis for these charges. Also, John Eastman, another attorney, Ken Cheeseborough, and Jeffrey Clark, who was a senior Justice Department official who, according to the indictment, was willing to make a statement, had actually drawn up a document suggesting that there were serious concerns by the Justice Department. That document was never issued because there were a lot of other people in the Trump campaign who were not comfortable with it. But what this means is that the former president, faces a 4th very serious indictment. And unlike the 2 federal indictments, he faces one in Washington, D.C. for his efforts to overturn the election and his efforts around the January 6th, 2021 insurrection. He faces charges of mishandling documents in Florida. Those are federal charges as well. And he faces charges in New York State for a scheme to pay off a former porn star he allegedly had an affair with to quiet her ahead of the election. This one would be another very serious series of charges against the former president. And in those state charges, unlike the federal charges, if he becomes the president, he doesn't have the pardon rights over those state charges. So these would be very, very difficult for him to get rid of. So some very serious charges facing the former president of the United States, among the most serious in those 4 series of indictments. And there are a number of people in that Trump orbit who are also listed under those indictments. And that means this is really the most wide-reaching case so far in terms of the number of people named.
John, as you say, it will be the 4th set of indictments against the former president. How is all of this likely to affect his run for the White House next year, then?
Well, the crazy thing is that the more often he's indicted, the more money he raises. And believe it or not, the higher his poll numbers go among Republican voters. It seems counterintuitive, but those voters, according to polls, seem to feel that attack on him is an attack on his voting base as well. But in a more technical sense, there is nothing in the Constitution that says you cannot run for president if you've been convicted of a crime. There's an exception for treason, but that's not exactly what these charges are. One could make the argument that he should not be able to run again because of that, but that would be something that would have to be tested in court. And of course, nothing like that has ever happened before. So now Trump can continue going forward with his campaign. His campaign has already issued a statement saying these charges could have been leveled more than 2 years ago. He says they're just an attempt to derail his efforts to win the presidency again.
All right, John Hendren live for us there in Atlanta. John, thank you.